Hey everyone, welcome to the Bold Lawyers Show. I'm your host JD Hoovener, and we're here on Tuesday at 2:30 Pacific. We're live broadcasting our video across LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter today. And for those listening on the podcast, you can check us out if you want to go to YouTube at Bold Patents. You can find our lawyer stream, Bold Lawyers Show here. This show specifically is more for the lawyers. For those that aren't familiar, I want to build a network of attorneys and sort of be an advocate for those that haven't yet started their own practice but have an inkling or want to. And that's what this show is about. We're about interviewing owners of law firms and hearing their founder story, hearing what they're currently working on, how they got to this place of success, and then where they want to go. Right. For the most part, these are entrepreneurial attorneys, and they want to grow. And so we'll be talking about that here on the show too. So if you want to catch us live, again, we're on Tuesdays at 2:30 Pacific and then 5:30 East Coast. I'm usually with my co-host Matt Kolseth, but he's got a really busy day, first day of school for his kids. So we expect him in just a few minutes here. But why not? We'll bring our guest on. We have Dave Ratner of Creative Law Network. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, JD. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. This is good. And so Creative Law Network. I want to start with that.
Yeah,
because I think that is a very, very unique name. Let's talk about that first, and then we'll talk about kind of your founder story. Maybe they come together. How did you come up with that name for your law firm?
Full credit to my wife. She's the marketing genius that came up with it. So shout out to Julie Ratner. But really, it just felt like we want to be a different sort of law firm. And yeah, I can go get Ratner Law, ratnerlaw.com. But really, and when I started, it was just me. But really want to have a name that clearly communicated what we do and who we work with. And although I will admit at times it is confusing to folks who do not expect to see a law firm with a name of this nature, people say, well, what is that? It is a law firm. Not all states allow you to name a firm without your name in it.
Right.
Some state bar associations,
Still?
right? So I think so. Back when I did it, that was true.
Right. Yeah, I think like Texas or Louisiana, some of those different.
There might be a few. But it really was. It was about. It's kind of marketing if you think about it. It's about communicating just from the get-go. This is who we are and what we do.
Man, I love that. Of course, I have some commonality there, right? My name is not Bold, right? And so, in fact, my wife was a part of my creation story. It was a chalkboard. I'm just sketching out. Honestly, for me, I don't want to take much time, but it was a rocket ship I had in my mind. So I actually had so if you flip the B around, it's like kind of a rocket, right? Exploding, the flames. Anyway, I hear you totally. And I think that does set to the stage expectations. Oh, a law firm calling themselves a creative network. How interesting. So let's jump into that. So how did you get started? What was the very beginning, early stages of Creative Law Network?
So before I became a lawyer in my former life, I was a band manager. I worked in the music business. So I had a small business. I had a management firm, and my job as a band manager was to help artists, help musicians manage the business of being a musician. And what really sent me to law school was I wanted to continue to be able to help artists and creatives just more from the legal side. So to be able to do the legal business for artists and creatives. And so after law school and practicing with a small firm for a while, heading out on my own with this mission, with the idea of working with creative people and businesses, helping them succeed, helping them, process and handle the legal matters that are necessary to run a successful business or a successful project. And so start out it being just me and a laptop and a cell phone. And really, but I was fortunate enough that I was able to take or bring a lot of my clients with me from the firm I had been a part of. So when I started, I had the benefit of a good book of business to kind of get things going, right from day one.
Okay, cool. Well, a lot to unpack there. So what kind of a band were you managing? Bring us back a little bit. Come on, have some fun.
We can go back further. When I started in the music business, I was just a roadie. I was selling T-shirts and CDs. And then I became a tour manager. So managing the tours and setting up all the transport, hotels, etc. I can drive a 43-foot bus. I've been in all 50 states,
Oh my god.
and I was
Can you
tour
share some
managing.
names? I mean, band names?
I was managing a band called the Motet,
Okay,
and they are still at it, still working hard, um,
awesome.
and and really it was just a great way to learn about the industry, great way to learn the music business, and I kind of take that education that I got about the music business and try and apply it to what I do as an attorney, try and put myself in the shoes of the clients. Right? It's like, what do you need? What are we concerned about? Obviously, as attorneys, we're issue spotting,
Yeah.
right? But trying to issue spot in a way that will really serve and ideally protect the clients as they travel the road of their career, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. So after law school, you said you joined a firm. Uh,
Mhm, mhm.
where was that at, and what kind of a firm was it?
So that was in Colorado because I,
Yeah.
I graduated from the University of Denver. And so it's a Denver law firm. And it was just two attorneys that had been practicing for 30 years. And so I had the benefit of all of their experience because we all know that law school doesn't really teach you how to practice law, right? It teaches
Right.
you how to think and write. And so they really helped me figure out how to manage clients, how to manage a file. But I also learned when I joined them, they didn't have a website. They didn't have a good phone system. They didn't have a good workflow, right? And so I got to create those things for them or for us.
Hmm.
And that, so it kind of, not that it helped me start my own firm because I had the experience of contributing to those nuts and bolts of running a firm. And I think I actually just had a conversation today with a friend who had just is starting a firm with a few other attorneys. And what is involved in what systems you're going to use, right? And how you manage the client's intake, for example, right? What's our intake process? And all those steps that are seem tangential to the actual legal work, but you can't run a firm without it.
Right. Yeah. The systems and processes. So you'd actually got a head start, sort of in a way incubated in this
Yeah.
other firm and setting a lot of the modern day phones and even websites, some of the marketing. So were you bringing clients in for this firm?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
that was I was
Uh,
very yeah, it was great because they gave me, kind of gave me the opportunity to do so. It was not a typical partner associate relationship.
yeah.
I was meeting with clients very early on,
That's cool.
and again learn. So it was be the partner and me in the room with the potential client or with the client. So learning that process and building those relationships because, as we know, it's a relationship business.
For sure. And so okay, how long were you there at that firm?
That was 4 years.
4 years. Okay. And it was
Mhm.
this they're cheering you on as you're leaving, or more contentious as you were leaving
It
in the
was we kind of all went our separate ways,
got
at that point, yeah, and so, it was not I mean, it definitely was not super contentious or anything, no.
I've never been in the situation. So I mean, this is fascinating to me. Let's take a few minutes there. What is it like, quote unquote, taking a book of business with you? What are some of the pros and cons? Maybe some of the tips of those that are maybe in a practice and want to think about doing that. How do
Yeah.
you do that best?
It's complicated, right? Because there I think a lot of business owners or maybe even attorneys think that there is some that the firm owns or controls the client, but the client controls the engagement.
Yep.
So this comes up when people try and like sell a book of business, right? The client decides who they want to be their lawyer. And so what we did, we contacted clients and said, "Hey, this is what is happening. Tell us where you want to go and we'll transfer your file wherever you want to go." It was this, I mean, logistically that's very challenging because you've
Yeah.
got hundreds of clients to deal with. So that was, I think, a big challenge. That was a big spreadsheet, so to speak. But really that was really the process of leaving it up to the client for the client to decide who they want to work with.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. And you just, you sort of trust that relationship building that you had done up until then. Hopefully that'll help make their mind up.
Exactly. And here's the thing, for me especially, it's not personal, right? If a client wants to, whatever they want to do, I think that something that I learned early on, because my practice is all transaction, it's a lot of drafting, right? And the idea of there being no pride in authorship, right? It's like, I'm going to draft this thing, someone else is going to review it and redline it. If they don't like what I wrote, it's not about me personally. I don't take it personally. And
Right.
it's the same thing if a client decides that we are not the right fit, as long as I haven't done anything wrong, right? As long as I haven't failed or erred in some way, I'm not gonna hold it close because it's just part of business.
Yeah. All right. So when you launched on your own here, were you able to kind of narrow and tailor the area, the cases that you took on into specific subject matters, or keep it about the
Well,
same?
it was very similar. I really wanted to continue doing the same thing. So that wasn't necessary. I think it did give me the opportunity to put my own spin on it, choosing the name of the firm.
Sure.
The design, like I have not changed the look and feel of the website since day one because we get compliments on it. People like the website. So
Right.
designing that look and feel and the brand identity was important and making sure that we're communicating clearly with who we are and what we want to do. You know.
Here it is. It certainly is clean, and you've got that really distinctive logo and a design mark along with the name there.
Yeah, yeah.
How,
I mean that. Sorry.
how did you come about that
Oh,
design?
we had a designer do that. We do, look in the same way that I will tell clients, don't write your own contracts, hire a lawyer to do it. Don't design your own logos, hire an expert to do it,
Oh
right?
man,
And
love
it
that.
has served us well.
Excellent.
And we definitely have a lot. We try and not only talk about what we do, but who we work with, because I think it's in the creative fields. A musician may not really know what they need, or an author may not really know what they need. So if when you click on one of those, this page will describe what it is we can do for you, and also just a legal checklist. Have you done these things? Not providing legal advice, obviously, but
Hmm.
here's some ideas. Here's some things to think about, because a common question we get, especially from the artists, are, when do I need a lawyer? Or when
Right.
someone's starting a business, when do I need to bring in a lawyer?
I
And
love
and so we want hopefully the website can answer some of those initial questions for folks,
it.
right?
Yeah.
And the idea ideally is to breed a good relationship, and that starts with a good amount of trust and information. I think that I always kind of felt like there's some service providers who treat information as like a walled off, like, no, you have to pay me for this.
Hmm.
And from my perspective, if we share the information, it helps the whole, and it'll still come back to me. I do a
Yeah.
lot of presentations. I give a lot of free legal information, not advice, but this is how a copyright works. This is how we do a trademark application.
Yeah.
Just because this is information that will help educate the folks who are eventually going to be our clients. An educated client, an informed client, is definitely a better client.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's good. Yeah. So I like that we've done on your site. I may steal that in terms of like identifying who it is you're trying to serve. And obviously for us would be inventors, but for
Yeah.
you, you're talking about musicians. And it's that awesome thing. Like they don't know what they don't know. And maybe the smart ones are willing to come and ask you, but you're telling them right there on the website, here's what you might be forgetting. Here's what you might not think about, some opportunities or ways to avoid liability. I think it's well done. So I'm glad we could show that off.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I said thanks for showing it off.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, I mean, okay. So how long have you had Creative Law Network?
It'll be 11 years next month.
Man, that's awesome. Congrats. I mean, so 11 years, you figured something out. Okay. So we kind of talked about the infancy of the firm. What are some major milestones in your mind that you've sort of hit, looking back? I'm reading this really good book right now. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And I'm thinking about this a lot lately. So for example, I end up finding myself in the gap. And what that is where I'm sort of comparing myself with ideals or where I want to go. And I'm always striving, but I don't necessarily take the time to realize how far I've come. The gain, right? Sort of. So looking from like the gain perspective, what are some big milestones you think you've hit in your firm, in this 11 years?
I think we've talked about this before, that the most important thing was to hire the first person, right?
Okay.
Because we talked about when to hire, right?
Yep.
And I waited too long. So
Okay.
there's your advice, right?
How
Is
long was
that
it too long?
it was a few years. It was definitely a few years
Okay.
just doing it all on my own. And here's the thing: there are people out there that want to do it all on their own, and I do not. That works for some people, and I don't question that or criticize it at all. For me, the first person I hired was not a lawyer; it was an assistant, an office manager, someone who could open
Yeah.
the mail, right,
Yeah.
respond to emails, answer the phone, set you basic filings with the Secretary of State, things like that.
Right.
Things that honestly, things that I can't bill for, right?
Mm-hmm.
That my time, in order to grow, right? My time needs to be profitable, right? I
Love
mean,
that.
I'm the one generating revenue, right? And so it made sense to hire someone to take on that work to free me up to service the clients. And that was it was a really freeing experience, I have to tell you. And something that absolutely, as I said, I waited too long to do, but it was a huge help.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. So we're talking about just sort of those administrative duties, if you will, sort of the stuff that would hang you up, the filings, the email responses.
For me, I mean, there's other attorneys who want to handle that. They want to handle the entire deal flow, beginning
Right.
to end, but they want to hire an associate or maybe partner with someone to, and that's another way to increase revenue.
Yep.
Certainly makes sense. This is what worked for me,
Yep.
and so was really that was very freeing and kind of broadened the scope of what I was able to do. I think another thing, and this wasn't a milestone as much as it was just notable, is that there's a certain point at which I realized, yes, I'm a lawyer, I'm also an entrepreneur, right?
Okay.
And it's very easy to forget that part. And and for example, the books that you read, right?
Yep.
Reading the books by accepting and acknowledging I'm an entrepreneur, reading those books geared towards entrepreneurs, following those pathways, taking that advice, talking to those people. I joined an entrepreneurial peer group that wasn't lawyers, people in completely different industries, but we have a lot of the same issues to
Hmm.
address. And so that was helpful for me. And then, and kind of importing those things and sometimes changing them to fit the industry that we're in.
Awesome. All right. So you're on your first sort of non-attorney admin, help.
Mm-hmm,
You're able to
mm-hmm.
get, hopefully more hours in, or maybe the reverse, you're able to get some more time off, if you will, have more flexibility.
Also helpful.
All right. So let's see. So milestone, I would guess your first associate. So
Sure. Yep. That
when
was a
did
good one
that,
too. That
how
was
far
great.
along were you? When do you know? Do you think, looking back, do you think you hired that associate at the right time, too early, or too late?
I do think it was the right time. It was a time at which I felt like my plate was over full,
Okay.
right? And I had, I won't, more work than I was comfortable handling. Like you want to be able to take a vacation.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's twofold. The vacation means you can offload some work, but also there's someone minding the store.
Yeah.
Right? You can take a vacation because someone's there when an emergency arises. There's someone else there to handle that. And so that was great. The way that I chose to bring on an associate was to hire someone straight out of law school.
Okay.
So that because what I feel like, I mean, what I do isn't entirely unique, but I want to make sure that the person who was doing it was able to learn from the ways that I've done it,
Hmm.
because we're going to work really closely together, right? We're going to be working on the same things. It wasn't hire someone with their own book of business to handle things completely separate from what I was doing. It was more about help me with the clients that I'm working on. Let's work together. And it still works that way where the client will talk to the client about what contract they need drafted. My associate can go and draft it, and then we can deliver it back to the client.
So it was that important. Did you think about that, like when you first hired them on, and that you want to have that first impression, in terms of them and their legal experience? Was that a big part of it, or was it more so that, hey, look, this is someone who's excited, ready to get going, maybe more entrepreneurial and fresh
It
thinker?
was a number of things, right? Well, hey, one thing was I didn't have 40 hours a week of work for him to start,
Okay,
right?
that's a
And so
huge point. Okay, that's
yeah,
scary.
so,
That's scary.
right, yeah, I
Wrong.
mean, making that commitment would have been really hard. And He he'd taken the bar already, but we start off more on a 20 to 30 hours a week
Okay.
basis,
Yeah.
built it up, and I mean we were 40 hours a week I think within a few months.
Right.
Um,
I love that. So not all new law students that are graduating, demand a whole full 40-hour week. There's some, in your case, you
sure.
found one that's willing to take on a part-time job, and sort of part-time to full-time, right?
Yep.
Expectations. That's awesome.
And that was the plan. I mean, that was the plan. And yes, thankfully it worked.
Right.
I think because I had tried working with some kind of more contract attorneys
Right.
who had their own shop but would do some stuff for me, and that was just hard for me to coordinate. It
Hmm.
just didn't flow for me really well, so it
Right.
just wasn't the right system for me. But I
Yeah.
know a lot of attorneys work that way
Yeah.
successfully.
Right. Right. We have, just to switch over a different perspective, we have
Sure.
currently 5 employees and 2 contractors, and you can just tell, even just looking at emails or how they interact in a meeting, who's an employee, right? Who has a bit more care and just that skin in the game, versus a contractor who's gonna just kind of do what they're told, right? Do the minimum, do what's being asked, and sort of provide. So there's that, as well. I mean, do you mind sharing, compensations for that first hire? Was it pure salary? Were there other compensation items that you had offered to make it
I
competitive?
believe what we did is we started off hourly.
Okay.
And so tracking hours, basically invoicing hours on a probably weekly basis. I don't remember exactly. I'd have to go look.
Yeah.
But it was hourly and when we got to a point where it felt like, okay, there's enough, maybe we were averaging 30 hours a week. So let's just make the jump to salary at 40, and what we did, if I remember correctly, what we did was we took that hourly rate and said, okay, whatever that hourly rate at 40 hours a week is, that's your salary to start.
Yep.
Because again, that felt safe.
Right.
Uh,
That's
and
good.
then we can, work, on figuring out how the compensation is going to evolve. Because I hadn't done it before, so I actually, this is something I still use with my team. Is I will tell them, look, I've created a lot of systems, we've created a lot of processes and procedures. I'm not claiming it's the best way. This is just what I came up with. If you have a better idea, I am all ears.
Love it.
What we want is the best. I don't care. Again, no pride in this. Let's just make it the best it can be. So if you think there's a better way to do this or a different way that's going to help everybody better, fantastic. Let's do it.
Did your associate come in, in a similar way to where you came in, like where you were bringing in business? Has your associate brought in any business, and have you encouraged that, incentivized it in any way?
It certainly is incentivized. Yeah.
Okay.
It hasn't. I mean, I think that it's really, it's much more. It's a personality thing. So here's one of the things that is a little different,
Yeah.
or rather that I can say is I recognize in our specific field, right? And being in the creative industries and being the creative arts is that because it is industry specific, it's a lot of times about being out in the community doing those things. And I came from that community,
Mhm.
right? Where I'm going to a concert is work for me, right? I'm seeing clients. That's just what it is. And
Right.
which I'm fine with. I acknowledge that my associate didn't come from that community. He actually, interestingly, has an engineering background,
Ah,
as a
okay.
matter
All
of
right.
fact.
Yeah.
So he could have done patents, but decided not to.
Very interesting.
And so he came from a different background, which I think is really helpful in a lot of ways. It's different. It's very different from where I came from.
Yeah.
There's a joke that if I was good at math, I wouldn't have had to go to law school, right? Other than the patent attorneys out there, everyone else probably most of us are on that path. And so it's just we definitely came at it from different places.
Got it. And I'm gonna take one more step further. You don't have to give us all the goods,
Yeah,
but I do want to
no,
know,
no, totally.
how do you incentivize bringing in new clients? Because I'll just tell you, I've batted zero. Right. I've incentivized my attorney. I give them a percentage of revenue share. Hey, just market.
Right.
But these are engineers. These are scientists turned
Yeah,
lawyers. And on my side, they would rather just work. They want to stay heads down and working with the inventor, and they're
sure.
all worker bees. I haven't found a way to bring in someone that's entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
maybe they would just go start their own firm if that's what they are. You know what I mean? So tell me your side. I
There
mean,
is that. There is that. Well, so difference is my paralegal or our paralegal
yep.
is from the industry. She did work in music and actually has a master's degree in events.
Okay.
And so I think for her it's a lot easier to be out at shows and out events and doing a lot more of passing out business cards, which
Right.
also, by the way, has changed since COVID,
Sure have.
right?
Yeah.
We definitely didn't have that interaction for a few years there.
Yep.
But the incentive is financial. Yes, the incentive is bring in a client, get a percentage of revenue generated by that client.
Yeah. For us, I'll just volunteer. We offer 5%. I don't know if that's a decent amount. Do you mind sharing what your percentage is?
Ours is 10.
Hey,
So
I get a
not
sharp.
trying to make you not
Hey,
trying to make you look bad. Uh,
good for you. Good for you. Well, and so has it worked? How many clients has your paralegal or anybody brought in? Just ballpark.
it's not, yeah, it is not a huge part of our business yet.
Okay.
Um, And
Yep.
I think that, but here's the thing, a lot of our business is still um, is still coming from Google. I
Ah,
mean,
yeah.
it really
Organic
is. Yeah.
on the website. That's huge.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So while there is a lot of word of mouth,
Hmm.
and that is, and by the way, I do think it's worth mentioning that when it is word of mouth, when a client refers you to another client, that I don't know where that like there, for example, our paralegal, since she handles all the trademarks,
Right.
she's handling a lot of the trademark. The trademark clients are working directly with her. So if a trademark client refers a new one of their friends to us, they didn't say she refer, but it is because of the great work our trademark paralegal did. So
That,
it's kind of hard to identify. I think the specific referral fee is this, I met this person, I brought them into the firm,
absolutely.
right?
Origination.
And that's, yeah, and that's not every client.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it may not be something that's necessarily critical, but it's nice to have that for those that may be motivated there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So let's see. We got a few minutes left. Catch up to speed. So we have you have a paralegal now, obviously. Tell us about your team, and then in a couple of minutes, if you don't mind, where are you trying to grow? Okay, where do you see yourself in maybe 5 years, 3 5 years from now?
Sure, sure. So the team is associate and paralegal and kind of assistant office manager. So
Okay.
there's four of us,
Yeah.
and so everyone kind of has their own silo. If that doesn't sound negative, right? Everyone has their own lane.
Yeah.
Now we certainly collaborate on things and work together in a lot of scenarios,
Hmm.
but it isn't that I don't have a team of associates, so to speak.
Right. And
Um,
no partners yet, if I should say. Is there a track that way for your associate?
Yeah, sure. I think that the partner thing is really, it's funny. I, I used to, there's a good friend of mine where we're friends. We like to work together. We've shared clients and et cetera. And we talked about partnering. And it was like, well, you have your firm and I have mine. Why, is there a benefit? And we didn't
Right.
really,
Is one plus
see one.
one three, right? Or more
Right,
than four.
exactly. Exactly right. There's that math again. And so I think that where it's growing, I mean, so one thing we're doing to grow is I'm a member of the bar in Colorado and joined in New York, passed in New York. And so we're going to try and expand in New York a little bit. I'm originally a New Yorker. I go
Okay,
there a fair amount.
nice.
So we got a virtual office there. I know you have a lot of virtual offices,
Right?
with the idea of can we expand into that market a little bit more? Because
Yeah.
I'd love to. I'd love to be there more. That'd be fun. So things like that, and I think that it also is a matter of what maybe technologies, techniques are going to bring in more business. Where should we be focusing on the marketing? Because we're not trying to change what we do. We're trying to do more of it for more people.
Man, love that. So good. Well,
Thanks,
Dave,
man.
thank you for coming on our show, and appreciate you and sharing the whole story with us here. We didn't get any live questions, but I know this recording will be up on our LinkedIn and YouTube for YouTube forever, I think. But LinkedIn,
Seems like it, yeah.
yeah. And we didn't say anything bad, I don't think. I really appreciate you going deep and sharing some stuff about your law firm. And for those that don't know, Dave is a part of my mastermind. And if you're a lawyer out there and you're practicing and looking to grow your firm, I'm starting to get the word out a little bit about it. It's been a bit of a secret for a while, but I'm excited about growing it. So get hold of me. My email is jd@boldip.com. If you want to know more about it, it's basically a once a month meetup with other attorneys that are like-minded and want to grow a practice. So again, Dave, thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us and being up for the interview.
Thanks for having me, JD. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, take care, buddy. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.